how the pyramids were really built. 4,500 years ago, on a stretch of desert outside modern-day Cairo, someone stacked 2.3 million blocks of stone into a shape so precise it still confuses engineers today. No cranes, no wheels, at least not for hauling stone, no iron tools. And yet the Great Pyramid of Giza is aligned to true north with more accuracy than most buildings constructed in the last century. So here's the question that's been asked for literally thousands of years. How did they actually do it? Today we're going through the leading theories, the ones backed by evidence, the ones that have been disproven, and the one that might finally explain the whole thing. Stick around, because the answer is stranger and more human than you'd expect. The scale of the problem. Before we get to the how, you need to understand exactly what how is up against. The Great Pyramid is built from roughly 2.3 million blocks, averaging 2.5 tons each. Some of the interior granite blocks weigh over 80 tons. That's heavier than a fully loaded semi-truck. It was built in an estimated 20 years. Do the math. And that's one block placed roughly every 2 minutes day and night for 2 decades straight. The base covers 13 acres and is level to within about 2 centimeters, across a footprint the size of 10 football fields. For comparison, that's a tighter tolerance than a lot of modern parking lots. Whoever built this wasn't guessing. This was engineering. The only mystery is the method. Theory 1. The straight ramp. The oldest and most intuitive theory is the straight ramp. Build one long ramp straight up the side of the pyramid and drag the blocks up on sledges. It's simple, and it's supported by the fact that we've actually found ramps at other construction sites from the same era. But there's a problem. Math. To keep a ramp at a gentle enough slope for workers to drag multi-ton blocks, a ramp reaching the pyramid's full height of 146 meters would need to be over 1.5 miles long. That ramp alone would require more material than the pyramid itself, so archaeologists moved on to something more efficient. Theory 2. The spiral ramp. The spiral ramp theory says workers wrapped a ramp around the outside of the pyramid as it rose, corkscrewing upward using far less material than one giant straight ramp. It solves the material problem. But it creates a new one. A ramp like that would cover the corners of the pyramid, making it almost impossible for engineers to check their alignment as they built. And we know the corners were checked constantly because the final structure is nearly perfectly square. There's also no surviving archaeological trace of a spiral ramp at Giza, which, for a mile of packed rubble, is a strange thing to have vanished without a trace. Theory 3. The internal ramp. In 2007, French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed something different. An internal ramp, built inside the pyramid itself, spiraling up through the structure like a staircase, invisible from the outside. This would solve both problems. No massive external ramp eating up resources, and the outer corners stay exposed the whole time for surveying. In 2016, a scanning project called Scan Pyramids used muon radiography, essentially cosmic ray imaging, to look inside the Great Pyramid without touching a single stone. They found a previously unknown void above the Grand Gallery, roughly the length of a jet airliner. It doesn't prove Houdin's internal ramp theory, but it proves the pyramid still has secrets we haven't scanned our way into yet, and that void is oddly consistent with where an internal ramp would need to run. Theory 4. The water shaft. Theory. Then, in 2020, French engineer Xavier Landreau proposed something almost nobody saw coming: hydraulic lift. The theory goes like this. Just outside the pyramid, archaeologists have found the remains of a massive structure called the Giza El Mudir, along with a network of trenches that Landreau argues functioned as a water treatment and storage system. The idea: workers used water pressure inside a shaft at the pyramid's core to float the heavy blocks upward on a kind of hydraulic elevator, section by section, as the pyramid grew. It sounds almost too advanced for 4,500 years ago. But we already know ancient Egyptians used canal systems and understood basic hydraulics for irrigation. The question isn't whether they understood water pressure, it's whether they scaled it up this far. Most Egyptologists remain skeptical, but it's the first theory that tries to explain not just how blocks moved up, but why the pyramid's internal shaft structure looks the way it does. The part. Everyone forgets who actually built it. Here's something that gets buried under all the engineering talk. For centuries, popular culture assumed the pyramids were built by slaves. Excavations at a nearby site called the Lost City of the Pyramid Builders tell a different story. Archaeologists found housing, bakeries, breweries, and medical facilities for workers, including evidence of set bones that had been carefully treated and healed. You don't build hospitals for slaves you don't intend to keep alive. Most researchers now believe the pyramids were built largely by a rotating labor force of skilled workers and farmers, conscripted during the Nile's flood season when farming was impossible anyway, and paid in bread, beer, and, it seems, actual medical care. That changes the story. This wasn't cruelty at scale. It was one of the largest coordinated labor projects in human history, run with a logistics system that fed, housed, and treated thousands of people for 20 straight years. So which theory is right? Here's the honest answer. Nobody knows for certain, and it's very possible more than one method was used at different stages. External ramps for the lower levels, when a shallow slope was still practical. Something steeper and more compact, internal or spiral, for the upper third. Levers and copper tools for the final precision placement. The truth is probably not one clever trick, but layered, practical problem solving by people who'd been doing this for generations before Giza and kept refining the process. What we can say for certain, this wasn't magic, and it wasn't aliens. It was math, logistics, a workforce fed well enough to work for decades, and an almost unbelievable tolerance for precision. So next time someone tells you the pyramids couldn't have been built by ancient humans, remember the muon scans, the internal voids, the bakeries, the healed bones. The truth isn't that ancient humans had help, it's that we've kept underestimating what they were capable of. Which theory do you think holds up? Drop it in the comments. I will read everyone. And if you want the next mystery like this one, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more.